Administrative law. General principles. The definition of administrative law. This law belongs to the field of public law and is generally understood as that part of law which governs the organization, functions, and procedures of administrative agencies of the government to which quasi-legislative powers are delegated and quasi-judicial powers are granted, and the extent and manner of which such agencies are subject to control by the courts. Separation of powers and administrative functions. The Supreme Court ruled that the law in question enacted by National Assembly did not constitute a wholesale delegation of legislative authority. Instead, it delegated only administrative functions to the Public Service Commission, allowing the use of discretion to implement legislative intent. The court noted the evolution of the separation of powers principle adapting to the complexities of modern governance, which has led to the acceptance of subordinate legislation within certain limits. This trend reflects the need to address the increasing complexity of modern life and the challenges in administering laws, resulting in a growing tendency to delegate greater powers to administrative agencies, a practice generally supported by the courts. Administrative functions encompass regulatory control over individuals, conduct for their welfare, and the formulation of rules to fulfill legislative policy as defined by the agencies governing law. Administrative agencies. Agency includes any department, bureau, office, commission, authority, or officer of the national government authorized by law or executive order to make rules, issue licenses, grant rights or privileges, and adjudicate cases. Research institutions with respect to licensing functions, government corporations with respect to functions regulating private right, privileges, occupation, or business, and officials in the exercise of disciplinary power as provided by law. Administrative agency, on the other hand, is the term used generally to describe an agency exercising some significant combination of executive, legislative, and judicial powers. It is a government body charged with administering and implementing particular legislation. Quasi-legislative or rule-making power. The authority delegated by lawmaking body to the administrative agency to adopt rules and regulations intended to carry out the provisions of law and implement a legislative policy. The grant of rulemaking is a relaxation of the separation of powers principle and is an exception to the non-delegation of legislative powers. But such administrative regulations must be consistent with the law and be for the sole purpose of enforcing its provisions and not to transcend the limits marked by the law. The details and manner of carrying out the law are oftentimes left to the administrative agency entrusted with its enforcement. Power of subordinate legislation. The power of subordinate legislation allows administrative bodies to implement the broad policies laid down in a statute by filling in the details. The regulation should be germane to the objects and purposes of the law and should not be in contradiction to but in conformity with the standards prescribed by law. As a general rule, the law prohibits the further delegation of power or function already assigned and delegated by the Constitution to a specific body such as the legislature. The rationale, one of the settled maxims in constitutional law, is that the power conferred upon the legislature to make laws cannot be delegated by that department to any body or authority. This doctrine is based on the ethical principle that such a delegated power constitutes not only a right, but a duty to be performed by the delegate by the instrumentality of his judgment acting immediately upon the matter of legislation, and not through the intervening mind of another. The general rule barring delegation of legislative powers is subject to recognized limitations or exceptions, one of which is delegation to administrative bodies. Permissible delegation. In every case of permissible delegation, there must be a showing that the delegation itself is valid. It is valid only if the law is complete in itself, setting forth therein the policy to be executed, carried out, or implemented by the delegate, and it fixes a standard, the limits of which are sufficiently determinate and determinable to which the delegate must conform in the performance of his functions. Completeness test. The law must be complete in all its terms and conditions when it leaves the legislature, such that when it reaches the delegate, the only thing he will have to do is enforce it. To determine whether there is an undue delegation of legislative power, the inquiry must be directed to the scope and definiteness of the measure enacted. The legislature does not abdicate its functions when it describes what job must be done, who is to do it, and what is the scope of his authority. Sufficient standard test. The law must fix a standard, the limits of which are sufficiently determinate or determinable, to which the delegate must conform. A sufficient standard is one which defines legislative policy, marks its limits, maps out its boundaries, and specifies the public agency to apply it. It indicates the circumstances under which the legislative command is to be effected. Filling in the details. With the power of subordinate legislation, administrative bodies may implement the broad policies laid down in a statute by filling in the details, which the Congress may not have the opportunity or competence to provide. The test to determine invalidity of administrative rules. If it exceeds the authority conferred to it, if it conflicts with the governing statute, if it extends or modifies the statute, if it has no reasonable relationship to the statutory purpose, and if it is arbitrary, unreasonable, or unconstitutional. Where a rule or regulation has a provision not expressly stated or contained in the statute being implemented, the provision does not necessarily contradict a statute. The legislative rule is in the nature of subordinate legislation designed to implement a primary legislation by providing the details thereof. All of the required is that the regulation should be germane to the object and purpose of the law, that the regulation be not in contradiction to but in conformity with the standards prescribed by law. Quasi-judicial or adjudicatory power. It is the power of an administrative agency to hear and determine or to ascertain facts and decide by the application of rules to the ascertained facts. By this power, administrative authorities are enabled to interpret and apply not only implementing rules and regulations promulgated by them but also the laws entrusted to their administration. This is the power of an administrative agency to determine questions of facts to which the legislative policy is to apply, in accordance with the standards laid down by the law itself. An agency is said to be exercising judicial function where it has the power to determine what the law is and what the legal rights of the parties are, and then undertakes to determine these questions and adjudicate upon the rights of the parties. Administrative due process. The right to hearing, which includes the right of the party interested or affected to present his own case and submit evidence in support thereof. Not only must the party be given an opportunity to present his case and to adduce evidence tending to establish the rights which he asserts, but the tribunal must consider the evidence presented. The decision of the tribunal shall be supported by something, must be based on evidence. A decision with absolutely nothing to support is a nullity. The evidence supporting the finding or conclusion must be substantial, such that relevant evidence as a reasonable mind may accept as adequate to support a conclusion. This does not include uncorroborated hearsay or rumors. The decision must be rendered on the evidence presented at the hearing or at least contained in the record and disclosed to the parties affected. Only by confining the administrative tribunal to the evidence disclosed to the parties can the latter be protected in their right to know and meet the case against them. The body must act on its or his own independent consideration of the law and facts of the controversy and not simply accept the views of the subordinate in arriving at a decision. Lastly, the body must render its decision in such a manner that the parties to the proceeding can know the various issues involved and the reasons for the decisions rendered. We have to note that the constitutional requirement that the judgment be in writing and promulgated is not applicable to administrative decisions. Ang tibay case is used as a basis for stating that quasi-judicial tribunals should render its decision in such a manner that parties to the proceeding know the various issues involved and reasons for the decisions. Administrative appeal and review. In appeal, it includes the review by a higher agency of decisions rendered by an administrative agency commenced by a petition of an interested party. Administrative review: a superior officer or department head, upon his or her volition, may review the decision of an administrative agency or that a subordinate's decision pursuant to the power of control. This is subject to the caveat that a final and executory decision is not included within the power of control and hence can no longer be altered by administrative review. Administrative res judicata. Generally, non-applicability of the doctrine of res judicata because it applies only to judicial or quasi-judicial proceedings and not to the exercise of purely administrative functions. Administrative proceedings are non-litigious and summary in nature, hence res judicata does not apply, except in naturalization proceedings or those involving citizenship and immigration, labor relations, and decisions affecting family relations, personal status or condition, and capacity of persons. The fact-finding, investigative, licensing, and rate-fixing powers. Fact-finding power. It is the power to declare the existence of facts which call into operation the provisions of a statute, and the power to ascertain and determine appropriate facts as a basis for procedure in the enforcement of particular laws. Generally, findings of administrative agencies are accorded with great respect by the courts owing to such agencies' expertise in their own fields, except that findings are vitiated by fraud, impositions, or collusion. Procedure which led to factual findings is irregular, there is palpable error committed, factual findings are not supported by evidence, there was grave abuse of discretion, arbitrariness or capriciousness is manifested when expressly allowed by statute, and error in appreciation of the pleadings and in the interpretation of the documentary evidence presented by the parties. Investigatory power. This is the power to inspect, secure, or require the disclosure of information by means of accounts, records, reports, statements, and testimony of witnesses. It is implied and not inherent in the administrative agencies. The power to issue subpoena is not also inherent in administrative bodies. Admin bodies may summon witnesses and require the production of evidence only when duly allowed by law and always only in connection with the matter they are authorized to investigate. The power to cite a person in contempt is not also inherent in administrative bodies. It must be expressly conferred upon the body and additionally must be used only in connection with its quasi-judicial as distinguished from its purely administrative or routinary functions. The licensing power is the action of an administrative agency in granting or denying, or in suspending or revoking, a license, permit, franchise, or certificate of public convenience and necessity. The rate-fixing power. It is a power usually delegated by the legislature to administrative agencies for the latter to fix rates which public utility companies may charge the public. The procedure of rate fixing. The administrative agencies performs this function either by issuing rules and regulations in the exercise of their quasi-legislative power or by issuing orders affecting a specified person in the exercise of its quasi-judicial power. The doctrine of primary administrative jurisdiction. The courts will not interfere in matters which are addressed to the sound discretion of the government agency entrusted with the regulation of activities coming under its special and technical training and knowledge, and the latter are given wide latitude in the evaluation of evidence and in the exercise of their adjudicative functions. The doctrine of exhaustion of administrative remedies. Whenever there is an available administrative remedy provided by law, no judicial recourse can be made until such remedies have been availed of and exhausted. An admin decision must be first appealed to the admin superior up to the highest level before elevating it to the Court of Justice for review. Exceptions to the doctrine of exhaustion of administrative remedies. Where there is estoppel on the part of the party invoking the doctrine, where the challenged administrative act is patently illegal, amounting to lack of jurisdiction, where there is unreasonable delay of or official inaction that will irretrievably prejudice the complainant, where the amount involved is relatively small so as to make the rule impractical and oppressive, where the question involved is purely legal and will ultimately have to be decided by the courts of justice, where the judicial intervention is urgent and when its application may cause great and irreparable damage. Another, where the controverted acts violate due process, when the issue of non-exhaustion of administrative remedies have been rendered moot, when there is no other plain, speedy, and adequate remedy, when there is strong public interest involved in quo warranto proceedings, except when to require exhaustion of administrative remedies would be unreasonable and when there are circumstances indicating the urgency of judicial intervention. The effect of failure to exhaust administrative remedies. The jurisdiction of the court is not affected, but the complainant is deprived of the cause of action which is a ground for a motion to dismiss. However, if no motion to dismiss is filed on this ground, then there is deemed to be a waiver. The doctrine of finality of administrative action. This doctrine dictates that courts will not intervene in an administrative action unless the action is considered final. This is to ensure that the admin process has been fully exhausted before the judiciary steps in. The rationale is to allow administrative agencies to function efficiently and to resolve matters within their specialized field of expertise without unnecessary judicial interference. The next topic is on election law. The nature of suffrage. It is a right created by law, not a natural right, and it is an expression of the sovereign will of the people. It is a privilege because its existence is not granted to everybody but to persons or class of persons as are most likely to exercise it for the purpose of public good. The power of Congress to regulate suffrage. The Congress has unlimited power to enact laws relative to the right of suffrage, and in the exercise of police power to suppress whatever evils may be incident to the election of public officers. Kinds of election. Regular, the one that is provided by law for the elections of officers either nationwide or in certain subdivisions thereof after the expiration of the full term of the former officers. Note that in SK election is not a regular election because the latter is participated in by youth with ages ranging from 15 to 18, now 15 to 30, and some of whom are not qualified to vote are not qualified to elect local or national elective officials. The age requirement for SK, however, is now at least 18 but not more than 24 years old on the day of the elections. That's the latest amendment. 18 to 24 for SK. A special election, one that is held to fill the vacancy in the office before the expiration of the full term for which the incumbent was elected. The election period, unless otherwise fixed by the Commission on Election, in special cases, the election period shall commence 90 days before the day of the election and shall end 30 days thereafter. The campaign period does not include the day before and the day of the election. The campaign period in special election is 45 days. Qualifications and disqualifications of voters. Citizenship. Voters must be Filipino citizen by birth or by naturalization. It is incumbent upon one who claims Philippine citizenship to prove to the satisfaction of the court that he is really a Filipino, and any doubt regarding citizenship must be resolved in favor of the state. The next qualification is age. He must be at least 18 years of age at the time of the election. A person may be registered as a voter although he is less than 18 at the time of the registration if he will be at least 18 on the day of the election. Residence. He must be at least 1 year in the Philippines and at least 6 months where he proposes to vote immediately preceding the election. Note that any person who temporarily resides in another city, municipality, or country solely by reason of his employment in private or public service, educational activities, work in the military or naval reservations within the Philippines, service in the AFP, Philippine National Police, or confinement or detention in government institution in accordance with law shall not be deemed to have lost his original residence. Only an intention to reside in a fixed place but also personal appearance in that place coupled with conduct indicative of such intention. It is not necessary that a person should have a house or in order to establish his residence or domicile in a municipality. It is enough that he should live there, provided that his stay is accompanied by his intention to reside therein permanently. Requisites to acquire a new domicile. First, residence or bodily presence in a new locality, an intention to remain therein, and an intention to abandon the old domicile. The evidence overwhelmingly supports petitioner's decision to permanently abandon her U.S. residence and establish herself in the Philippines. Actions such as selling their U.S. house, withdrawing children from U.S. schools, and notifying relevant authorities indicate a deliberate move. Furthermore, securing a TIN, enrolling children in Philippine schools, purchasing property, and eventually applying to reacquire Philippine citizenship demonstrate a clear intent to establish residency here. These actions, coupled with continuous stays in the Philippines and eventual citizenship application, leave no doubt that the petitioner's return is marked as a permanent relocation. This is the case of Poe versus Comelec. Okay, the grounds for disqualification. Sentenced by final judgment of imprisonment for um, not more than 1 year, not less than 1 year, except granted a plenary pardon or an amnesty. Judged by final judgment of any crime involving disloyalty to the duly constituted government, example, rebellion, sedition, violation of firearms law, any crime against national security, except if he is restored their full civil and political rights. For both grounds, reacquire the right to vote upon the expiration of 5 years after the service of sentence. Those insane or incompetent persons as declared by the competent authority, except unless the competent authority declares the insane and incompetent person already mentally fit and capable. In order that a qualified elector may vote in any election, plebiscite, or referendum, he must be registered in the permanent list of voters for the city or municipality in which he resides. No literacy, property, or other substantive requirement shall be imposed on the exercise of suffrage. Registration and the activation of voters. Registration is the act of accomplishing and the filing of a sworn application for registration by a qualified voter before the election officer of the city or municipality wherein he resides and including the same in the book of registered voters upon approval by the Election Registration Board. A qualified voter shall be registered in the permanent list of voters in a precinct of the city or municipality wherein he resides to be able to vote in any election. Registration does not confer the right to vote, but it is a condition precedent to the exercise of the right. Period of registration. No registration shall be conducted within the regular election 120 days before it or within 90 days before the special election. For deactivation, it refers to the process of deactivating the registration of certain persons, removing their registration records from the corresponding precinct book of voters, and placing the same in the inactive file, properly marked deactivated and dated in indelible ink. Causes of deactivation. The board shall remove the registration records of the following persons from the corresponding precinct book of voters and placing same in the inactive file. If he is sentenced by a final judgment to suffer imprisonment of not less than 1 year, unless there is plenary pardon or amnesty, he is adjudged by final judgment of having committed any crime involving disloyalty to the duly constituted government, such as rebellion, sedition, violation of firearms law. Insane incompetent person did not vote for 2 consecutive preceding regular elections, excluding SK. Registration has been ordered excluded by court and loss of Filipino citizenship. Reactivation of registration. Any voter whose registration has been deactivated may file with the election officer a sworn application for reactivation of his registration in the form of an affidavit stating that the grounds for the deactivation no longer exist. when at any time not later than 120 days before a regular election and 90 days before the special election. The election officer shall submit said application to the ERB, and if approved, the election officer shall retrieve the registration record from the inactive file and include the same in the corresponding precinct book of voters. Local heads or representatives of political parties shall be properly notified of approved applications. Inclusion and exclusion proceedings. Petition for inclusion. At any time except 105 days before the regular election or 75 days before the special election, any person whose application for registration has been disapproved or any person whose name has been stricken out from the list. Petition for exclusion. Anytime except 100 days before the regular election or 65 days before the special election, any registered voter in the city or municipality, representative of political party, or election officer. The jurisdiction. The MTC shall have the original and exclusive jurisdiction over all cases of inclusion and exclusion of voters in their respective cities or municipalities. Local and overseas absentee voting. Absentee voting is the process by which qualified citizens of the Philippines abroad exercise their right to vote. Overseas absentee voter, a citizen of the Philippines who is qualified to register and vote under this act, not otherwise disqualified by law, who is abroad on the day of the elections. Covered elections for overseas absentee voting, elections for president, vice president, senators, and party list representatives, as well as in all national referenda and plebiscites. Nationals. Local absentee voting. It is a system of voting whereby government officials and employees, including members of the AFP, PNP, as well as members of media practitioners, including their technical support staff, who are duly registered voters, are allowed to vote for the national position in the places where they are not registered voters but where they are temporarily assigned to perform election duties on election day. Detainee voting. Either through the special polling place inside jails or escorted voting may be availed of by any registered detainee whose registration is not transferred, deactivated, cancelled, or deleted. Detainee. For the purpose of detainee voting, a detainee refers to any person confined in jail, formally charged for any crimes, awaiting or undergoing trial, or serving a sentence of imprisonment of less than 1 year, because if more than 1 year, you are disqualified, and whose conviction of a crime involving disloyalty to the duly constituted government, such as rebellion, sedition, violation of firearms, or any crimes against national security, or any crime is on appeal. Candidacy. Candidate refers to any person who files his certificate of candidacy within the prescribed period, shall only be considered as candidate at the start of the campaign period for which he filed his certificate of candidacy. This includes any registered national, regional, sectoral organization or coalition thereof that has filed a manifestation to participate under the party list system, which has not withdrawn or which has not been disqualified before the start of the campaign period. Withdrawal of certificate of candidacy. If death, withdrawal, or disqualification should happen between the day before the election and midday of the election day, certificate may be filed with any board of election inspectors in the political subdivision where he is a candidate, or with the Commission on Election if it is a national position. Withdrawal of candidates. A person who has filed a COC may, prior to the election, withdraw the same by submitting to the COMELEC a written declaration under oath. As to withdrawal of candidacy, the withdrawing candidate is required to have duly filed a valid COC in order to allow his political party to file a substitute candidate in his stead. The withdrawal of the withdrawal for the purpose of reviving the certificate of candidacy must be made within the period provided by law for the filing of certificate of candidacy. Effects of denial and cancellation of certificate of candidacy. For any false material representation, a verified petition to deny due course or to cancel a certificate of candidacy on the grounds that any material representation contained in the COC is false. The material misrepresentation contemplated in this code refers to qualifications for elective office. Aside from the requirement of materiality, a false representation under Section 78 must consist of a deliberate attempt to mislead, misinform, or hide a fact which would otherwise render a candidate ineligible. In other words, it must be made with an intention to deceive the electorate as to one's qualifications for public office. Substitution of candidates. Substitution of candidates should be allowed even for barangay elections, as it is not prohibited by law. Even if the withdrawal was under oath, the certificate of substitute cannot be annulled after the election. The nomination of substitute candidate who won cannot be annulled on the ground that it lacked the signature of one of the authorized signatures. Substitution is not allowed if the certificate of candidacy to be substituted was cancelled because he was running for the fourth consecutive term, or because he failed to meet the one-year residency requirement. For nuisance candidates, a verified petition of an interested party or a motu proprio decision of the Commission to deny due course or cancel a certificate of candidacy if it is shown that said certificate has been filed to put the election process in mockery or disrepute, to cause confusion among the voters by the similarity of names and of the registered candidates, or by other circumstances or acts which clearly demonstrate that the candidate has no bona fide intention to run for the office for which the certificate of candidacy has been filed, and thus prevent a faithful determination of the true will of the electorate. Qualifications prescribed by law are continuing requirements and must be possessed for the duration of the officer's active tenure. Once any of the required qualifications is lost, his title to office may be seasonably challenged. Campaign. Election campaign or partisan political activity refers to an act designated to promote the election or defeat of a particular candidate or candidates to a public office, which shall include forming organizations, associations, clubs, committees, or other groups of persons for the purpose of soliciting votes, and undertaking any campaign for or against a candidate, holding a political cause, conference, meetings, rallies, parades, and other similar assemblies for the purpose of soliciting votes or undertaking any campaign or propaganda for or against a candidate. Making speeches, announcements, or commentaries, or holding interviews for or against the election of any candidate for public office, publishing or distributing campaign literature or materials designed to support or oppose the election of any candidate, or directly or indirectly soliciting votes, pledges, or support for or against a candidate. Persons prohibited from campaigning: those members of the Board of Election Inspectors, the civil service officers or employees, members of the military, foreigners, whether juridical or natural. It shall be unlawful for any person, whether or not a voter or candidate for any party or association of person, to engage in an election campaign or partisan political activity, except during the campaign period. Premature campaigning refers to the electioneering conducted before the official campaign period, but this is no longer an offense. A candidate is liable for an election offense only for acts done during the campaign period and not before. The law is clear as daylight. Any election offense that may be committed by a candidate under any election law cannot be committed before the start of the campaign period. Limitations on expenses. Limitations on expenses refer to the amount that a candidate or registered political party may spend for election campaign. For candidates of President and VP, 10 pesos. Other candidates, 3 pesos. A candidate without any political party or without support from political party, 5 pesos. For political party, 5 pesos for every voter currently registered in the constituency or, where it has official candidates. A statement of contributions and expenses, or the SOSE, It is a full, true, and itemized statements of all contributions and expenditures in connection with the election. Every candidate and treasurer of the political party shall within 30 days after the day of election file in duplicate with the office of the Commission this statement of contributions and expenditures. Effects of failure to file. No person elected to any public office shall enter upon the duties of his office until he has filed the SOSE as required. The same prohibition shall apply if the political party which nominated the winning candidate fails to file the statement required herein. Failure to file the statement or reports in connection with the electoral contributions and expenditures as required herein shall constitute an administrative offense for which the offender shall be liable to pay a fine ranging from 1,000 to 30,000 in the discretion of the Commission, except candidates for elective barangay office. A contest between the defeated. This is election protest. Election protest is a contest between the defeated and the winning candidates on the ground of fraud or irregularities in the casting and counting of ballots or in the preparation of returns. It raises the question of who actually obtained the plurality of legal votes and therefore is entitled to hold the office. Generally, the filing of an election protest or a petition for quo warranto precludes the subsequent filing of a pre-proclamation controversy or amounts to the abandonment of one earlier filed, thus depriving the COMELEC of the authority to inquire into and pass upon the title of the protestee or the validity of his proclamation. The reason is that once the competent tribunal has acquired jurisdiction of the election protest or a petition for quo warranto, all questions relative thereto will have to be decided in the case itself and not in another proceeding. Exception. The Board of Canvasser was improperly constituted. The quo warranto was not the proper remedy. What was filed was not really a petition for quo warranto or an election protest, but a petition to annul a proclamation. The filing of quo warranto petition or an election process was expressly made without prejudice to the pre-proclamation controversy or was made ad cautelam, and the proclamation was null and void. Quo warranto. Quo warranto proceeding for an elective office refers to an election contest relating to the qualifications of an elective official on the ground of ineligibility or disloyalty to the Republic of the Philippines. The issue is whether the respondent possesses all the qualifications and none of the disqualifications prescribed by law. Recall. Recall is a mode of removal of a public officer by the people before the end of his term. The people's prerogative to remove a public officer is an incident to their sovereign power, and in the absence of constitutional restraint, the power is implied in all governmental operations. Note that all expenses incident to recall elections shall be borne by the COMELEC. For this purpose, the annual GAA shall include a contingency fund at the disposal of the COMELEC for the conduct of recall elections. Jurisdiction over election offense. The COMELEC has exclusive jurisdiction to investigate and prosecute cases involving the violation of election laws. However, it may validly delegate the power to the provincial prosecutor or the ombudsman. In the event that the COMELEC fails to act on any complaint within 4 months from its filing, the complainant may file the complaint with the fiscal or the Department of Justice if warranted. It is not the duty of the COMELEC as an investigator and prosecutor to gather proof in support of the complaint filed before it. So the complainant must give the evidence. The jurisdiction of the COMELEC to disqualify candidates is limited to those enumerated in Section 68 of the Omnibus Election Code. All other election offenses are beyond the ambit of COMELEC jurisdiction. Okay, they are criminal and not administrative in nature pursuant to Sections 265 and 268 of the Omnibus Election Code. The power of the COMELEC is confined to the conduct of preliminary investigation on the alleged election offenses for the purpose of prosecuting the alleged offenders before the regular courts of justice. So, election offenses are criminal and not administrative in nature.